right to it. The fight over the release of files on late accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein continues. What's going on is during the 2024 presidential election, if you recall, President Trump supporters, they're pushing for the release of all the information, right? You recall that. But the Justice Department has failed to produce anything. Last week, the DOJ memo stated there was no evidence that Epstein had an incriminating list of powerful clients. I actually read a little bit more into the feds. They released a statement, a memo, and what they said was that they looked through, I think it was more than 300 different hard drives and computer systems and all this stuff, and they did not reveal or find a client list, which is what people they want to know. And I think a lot of people who are not Trump supporters, they want to know if he was on the list. You know, sure. MAGA supporters want to know who else was on the list. Everybody thought there was a list.
Yeah. So he didn't necessarily, he being Jeffrey Epstein, write that list down of here's my client list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But potentially the FBI has pieced all of that info together and made their own sort of client list here. Maybe that's sort of some of the confusion.
And AG Pam Bondi said she had a list, but it necessarily wasn't, like you mentioned, kind of a list as we think it to be potentially. Yes. So she said she had it, and they're like, why don't you release it? And it's kind of in that same realm.
So she said one thing, and then there really wasn't a list. Feel free to share your thoughts in the chat and on the poll. Now there's 1.2 thousand votes. I'm looking at my computer right now on YouTube. Let's take a listen to this here. We do have, some lawmakers sharing from both sides of the aisle their thoughts on this morning.
All of a sudden, it's like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. There is no files. There was no Jeffrey Epstein. It makes us more interested.
One of the worst human trafficking rings in American history, run by this scumbag. And I think the more we know about it, the more we get out there, the better it is.
Wild, right? I mean, you hear from both sides.
Yep.
And when he died in prison in 2019, he was awaiting trial. The FBI continues to, say that the evidence shows that he took his own life. But do you remember just the sheer number of different storylines that came out? Just, we don't think this happened. We think this happened instead.
The only thing I always say about this, and I have no idea, right? But conspiracies, people often forget how many people would have to be involved in a conspiracy of that level, and and if you're paid off to commit this conspiracy that's going on, well, theoretically, you just went from a little bit of money to a whole bunch of money. Your lifestyle changes. You're hiding that from the public now.
Yeah.
I really struggle with conspiracies in general. Just the logistics always seem impossible.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions left to be answered in terms of what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, Maxwell's behind bars still, so lots of questions about her and her role, her position on this whole sort of thing. So, like you mentioned, I mean, the conspiracy theories, and you grab onto one singular nugget, and then you can kind of unravel different sorts of things. When we talk about the list, I think people gravitate to that and the names on the list. But in any criminal trial, there are names that are associated potentially with it. We saw with Diddy that there were other artists kind of associated with it, not connected to it, but like just 6 degrees of separation kind of connected to it. So obviously this one's very sinister. So it even extrapolates.
Take the politics out of it for a moment, because I think there's so much Trump, and then people are always throwing the names from the other side of the aisle on the whole thing.
Yeah.
This was clearly a horrible, horrible thing that happened here.
It was.
And a lot of people knew about it and were a part of it.
And that was the thing, is that they didn't have a client list according to this memo that they released, but there were so many different pictures of underage girls and a lot of other things that were on these hard drives. And so they do not feel compelled to release all the information, obviously, because of the identities of the victims. But they said they searched for a client list, and one did not exist on any of these hard drives. But there was the sheer number of people affected, and it clearly was an awful story.
Yeah, the hardship for the young girls that might have been involved in this. So just having their names out there would certainly make their lives a significant amount worse. So,
it's a horrible, complicated, terrible situation. I'd love to know more information about it, though. I think we all would love to know more information about it.
Less speculation and more truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to the poll question because our numbers are continuing to grow. We're going to give you a quick glance at both of them. This one is, do you think the Jeffrey Epstein files should be released? 53% of you now say no. 47% of you now say yes. So more of an even number. And then, and Steve, now the numbers on the YouTube have grown to 1.2.
That is a huge number of people that are voting here. It's clearly, I mean, there's a ton of passion here.